Hi Krishna, good morning. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jaya mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Nara Narayan, which is the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto the author Srila Vyasadeva. And today we are reading from the third canto, entitled The Status Quo, and we are reading from the fifth chapter, entitled Vidura's Talk with Maitreya, and we are on text 31, so 3, 5, 31, 3, 5, 31. And we can do one Sanskrit verse at a time. Tajasani Indriyani Eva Yana Karma Mayani Cha Tajasanindriyani Eva Yana Karma Mayani Cha Tajasanindriyani Eva Jnana Karma Mayani Cha Tajasanindriyani Eva Jnana Karma Mayani Cha. So that's a two-line verse, quite unusual. Tajasanindriyanyeva Jnana Karma Mayani Cha. Someone online would like to chant the verse?
Tajasanindriyanyeva
Tajasanindriyanyeva
Jnana karma mayani cha
Jnana Karma Mayani Cha. Tajasani, the mode of passion. Indriyani, the senses. Eva, certainly. Jnana, knowledge. Philosophical speculations. Karma, fruitive activities. Mayani, predominating. Cha, also. Translation. The senses are certainly products of the mode of passion in false ego, and therefore philosophical speculative knowledge and fruitive activities are predominantly products of the mode of passion. Purport by Devan Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The chief function of the false ego is godlessness. When a person forgets his constitutional position as an eternal subordinate part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and wants to be happy independently, he functions mainly in two ways. He first attempts to act furtively for personal gain or sense gratification, and after attempting such furtive activities for a considerable time, when he is frustrated, he becomes a philosophical speculator and thinks himself to be on the same level as God. This false idea of becoming one with the Lord is the last snare of the illusory energy which traps a living entity into the bondage of forgetfulness under the spell of false ego. The best means of liberation from the clutches of false ego is to give up the habits of philosophical speculation regarding the absolute truth. One should know definitely that the absolute truth is never realized by philosophical speculation of the imperfect egoistic person. The absolute truth, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is realized by hearing about Him in all submission and love from a bona fide authority who is a representative of the 12 great authority mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. By such an attempt only can one conquer the illusory energy of the Lord. Also for others, she is unsurpassable, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Om Jnana Dasya Jnana Jala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Kadam Datati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Takta Kanchana Gorangira De Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhya Chakripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvesesha Shunyavadi Paschachate Shatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukha Motivachalam Pangom Langayate Krim Yakrita Krishna Tamaham Bande Sagu Tejatarinam. So we are reading from the third canto, chapter 5, text 31, and it reads: the senses are certainly products of the mode of passion, false ego, and therefore philosophical speculative knowledge and fructive activity are predominantly products of the mode of passion. So the mode of passion doesn't have such a great reputation, but in the creation of the war of the Lord, there is no such duality of the mode of passion is bad, the mode of goodness is good, the mode of tamas. No, everything is in place in a proper time and space. And there we are hearing from Maitreya about creation, And the previous verses, they speak about the mind, and the mind is born of goodness. So we have the mind, the false ego is transformed into mind by interaction with the mode of goodness, and then the false ego is transformed into the senses by interaction with the mode of passion. And I love the first sentence of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is so eloquent. You know, he wants us to speak, he wants us to expand on his purport, and he wants us to give Bhagavatam class, for sure. It's his desire. And at the same time, you know, there is always a part of me that says, oh, Prabhupada is so clear. What can I say? So the first sentence he reads, the chief function of the false ego is godlessness. Okay, we're done. We're done. There is nothing else to say. The chief function of false ego is godlessness. That's complete and perfect. So the false ego. So let's go down. What is false ego? False ego means false identification. I'm identifying with something I am not. And so most of false identification with the mind that we heard about from Parampara, and then a false identification with the senses. Whatever my senses want, I want. Whatever my mind wants, I want. And so that false identification is preventing us to be godly. Because to be godly, one needs to understand that my only identity, my real identification, is to be eternal part and parcel of Krishna, to be eternally a servant of Krishna. Ahinanda tanuja kinkaram patitamam vishame bhavam buddho kripaya tava pankaja sitaduli sadrisham vichintaya. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Lord Chaitanya says, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. So that Lord Chaitanya said, is taking the role of a devotee, and he said, yeah, that's my real identity. But somehow I'm fallen here, and because of the state of being fallen is the godlessness. As soon as we are godly, or we remember God, we remember Krishna, we are not in a state of forgetfulness anymore, and we are not in a fallen state. So the fallen state is false ego. And he said, please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atom at your lotus feet. One as an atom, like really understanding, like this is where I belong. An atom at the lotus feet of Krishna. And when I'm there, then I'm complete and perfect. That's all I need to remember I'm a part and parcel, a spark of the fire. In our Nectar of Devotion class, we were reading, we were speaking about the fire. So we are godly. We are godly by nature. By nature, we are part and parcel, and so we are godly. And we are like fire, and the fire has spark. So we have the spark of the fire. But Prabhupada said, as soon as like a spark of the fire fly away from the fire and fall, then usually it's just die. Even the shininess or the sparkliness or the heat and of the spark kind of diminish. So similarly, when the part and parcel of Krishna are very, very bright, we are so bright, we are so amazing. In the Bhagavad Gita it said, we are amazing, so bright and shiny. But as soon as we separate ourselves from Krishna, then we become dull. We become like the spark of the fire, very dull. And so where did I want to go with our class today? I'm going to try to follow my notes. Usually I don't look at my notes. And, oh yeah, so in this verse, so it says that when the false ego, the false identification that's there in those souls that don't want to surrender to Krishna is mixed with passion, then the senses are developed. And then the first thing that there is two ways we manifest our false ego, Prabhupada said, in this purpose. One way is by sense gratification, wanting to enjoy the five senses. And you'd say also the mind. The mind sometimes is considered like the six senses. We are all the senses because we want to enjoy our mind too. And then when we are frustrated trying to enjoy our senses, we realize it's not possible. Then we want to enjoy with philosophical speculation. And that's the last snare of Maya, that we want to enjoy by our intellect, thinking that I am God, I can figure it out. I can figure everything out. And that's a second way that Srila Prabhupada described. We get entangled with the material energy. And the only way to step out of that false identification and to regain our identification is by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Arirnama, 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 Eva Kevalam. Kalaunaste, Vanaste, Vagatir, Anyata. So it sounds a little bit narrow or dogmatic or like, sectarian to say that the only way. Yesterday I was speaking with a beautiful lady, and she lived 2 hours away from here, and she really, from the time she was in her 20s, she's really seeking God. She was kind of born in Catholicism, but really what was happening in her family was maybe twice a year. There were, Easter and Christmas. There was going to church and doing something, but basically not. But around her 20s, she really felt, I want to God. And interestingly, from Catholic, she went to the Baptist church. Because, South Florida, that's very common. And then she stays there for a few years. And then after she went to Unitarian, Episcopalian, and then now she's back to Catholicism, and she feels a lot of satisfaction. And then we were speaking, and it's very interesting, her story. Her story is that she went to a healing place where there's many devotees doing the healing, and she didn't go there for spiritual reason. She went there for bodily reason, for healing. And what she noticed is that the devotees had something she never experienced before. Never ever experienced before. She felt a peace, she felt an effulgence, she experienced, those people have something I don't have. And those people have something that people in my church don't have. And that's so deep for this person to realize that. So she went on the internet and she looked for an ashram. She said, okay, they told me that all those, she asked questions. And so the devotees were saying, oh, I joined an ashram. I was living in an ashram, and I learned all that in ashram. And so she looked for ashram, and she looked for a retreat ashram. But anyway, she stumbled upon my website. And it's quite far out, because that's the first time someone connect like that with me from my website. So she was surprised, because she asked me where I was, and I said, Alachua. And she said, Alachua, that's where I did my health retreat. Anyway, it's interesting. So she was saying, like, yeah, I don't like when a religion say it's the only way, that everything is Maya. They don't say it's Maya, but like, this is the only way. Christ is the only way. This is the only way. Baptist church is the only way. Catholicism is the only way. And so I was with her and said, well, yeah, you are very sincere. Sahagrahi. Sahagrahi, that's a name that Bhaktivinoda give to people who are really sincere spiritually. And I could feel that. I felt very enlivened, enthused, inspired by our time together. And yeah, Sahagrahi. She's a Sahagrahi, a real, sincere devotee of the Lord who wants a relationship with God. And at the same time, like how to present that Harinam, Harinam, Eva Kevalam, Kalaonaste, Vanaste Gatya, Anyata, that it's the only way. There is no other way. This verse said there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. That's really insisting, that hammering it home in that verse, that there is no other way. So, and what he says to chant the Harinam, the name of Hari, the name of Hari. Hari is God, God, really, Hari is God for in contact with human being. God in contact with human being, the name is Hari. And so how to combine the two, like, yes, this is the only way, and I'm convinced of that. And at the same time, being not sectarian and being able to present the science of Krishna consciousness as a process of self-realization and God consciousness. And so we spoke, and she wanted to come on Friday. She said, okay, if I come Friday, we will have enough time to do practice. I said, well, the most important part of the morning program, of the program of the Bhakti Yoga retreat, it's a morning program. So it will be better you come Thursday night. And then I went to explain how in every tradition, and because she's Catholic, I insisted more there, that the nun in fact, they do their first Angelus, I think at 3 a.m. in the morning. So when we say 5, you're like devotees are lazy, in comparison. Like the nun in monasteries, the cloister nun, they start at 3 a.m. with Angelus. It's a certain, and what do they do? What do they do at 3 a.m.? They sing the Angelus, which is like such a beautiful song, glorifying God and his angel, like his pure devotees, his associates. And so there is no other way. If we take the Muslims, they chant the name of Allah. If we take every tradition, and chanting means glorifying. It doesn't mean that we chant the name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare. So it's a repetition of a mantra. But Kirtan is also chanting any verses from the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. Kirtan is when we come together and we speak about God. Like I have a friend who is coming regularly lately in my house to shelter ourselves from isolation, and we speak about how God is manifesting in our life. Like, oh, Krishna is so kind. You know what's happened? Oh, Krishna did that. Oh, Krishna, and the whole time we speak is Krishna, 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 and we speak about our life. But it's hard to separate our life from speaking about Krishna, because so much our life is dedicated to Krishna. So our eyes are open. Our eyes are open, a tall slash of knowledge because of Srila Prabhupada. We have the eyes open to see Krishna. Most people who have the same thing happening in their life, and they will think, well, that's bad luck or good luck. Bad luck or good luck, but they will not say Krishna. So we don't say bad luck, good luck, we say Krishna. And when we say Krishna, that means all good luck. There is no more bad luck anymore. So to really understand that, to really understand Sahagrahi, that means the glorification, the sincerity of the heart, and then at the same time, in the name of the sincerity of the heart and pluralism, it's not that everything is equal, everything is one, and we go into impersonalism or philosophical speculation, because there is a path, there is many paths, and not all of them are the same. Not all the paths are the same, And even the paths that all lead to God, let's say we have Catholicism or Islam, that insist on going and serving God and have faith in God and surrendering to God, then even there the name itself indicates different relationship with God. The name Allah means the great one, and like the anointed one, and different names. And also the path doesn't give as much clarity, first clarity, but also completeness of knowledge of God than what we receive from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So those distinctions are important, that the Lord comes and the Lord is always merciful to all living entities. He is always merciful to give us a path to come and join Him. And that He gives a path to join Him according to place, time, and circumstances. So an example when it comes to Christianity, that's clear in the words of Jesus, is that I have so much more to tell you, but you're not ready to receive it. And another indication of that, of the little faith of his disciple, of Jesus, is that they denied him. They denied him. So there was still a lot of envy. And of course, it's not like devotees of Krishna are not envious. We don't want to be in that illusion. But the path of Krishna consciousness is for the non-envious, anasuyave, in the second verse of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I said, I'm giving this knowledge to you because you're not envious of me. And why we receive this knowledge now, it's kind of an enigma, because I cannot say that I believe that we are more cultured or more advanced or more anything than the people of Judea when Lord Jesus Christ came, that they were way more cultured. And at the same, so it's kind of still an enigma in my mind to think, how come we receive this knowledge that's more complete and with a lot more intimacy and an intimate name of God. And that's something I put outside for conversation and discussion, because and I know it's Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, the second paragraph of his purport is that he said there are means for liberation from the clutch of Maya, illusion, false ego. And that means is not philosophical speculation. That means is following in a footstep of someone who is representative of the Mahajan. Mahajana, ye gata sapanta. I love that. Mahajana ye gata sapanta. And Mahajan means the self-realized, the self-realized, predecessor, really. And Yena, by which, and Gata, Gata, even so it's a goal, it's action, acted, and Sapanta means the pure path, the unalloyed path. Panta means the unalloyed path. So what's that unalloyed path? And I could see that lady yesterday. She's looking for that pure path. She has been disappointed, not by the teaching, not by the Bible. She has been disappointed by the practitioner. And I'm scared. I'm scared because there is so much to be disappointed by the practitioner of Bhakti Yoga too, And I'm scared for her that one day she will realize that. But hopefully her faith in the past and her faith in the Mahajan and the faith in Srila Prabhupada will be strong enough that she's not going to be distracted by that. She will make a difference between the pure past, pure unalloyed past, unadulterated past, and the follower of the pure past. And Prabhupada, he shared that we cannot get bhakti from anywhere else but where bhakti exists. That's a simple, this is a simple thought process. If I want an orange, I can only get orange from an orange tree. I can only get orange from where orange exists. So if I'm trying to get bhakti in any other way than getting it from someone who owns bhakti, is the owner of bhakti, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Mahatmana stumam partha daiving prakritim ashritaha bhajantya nanya manaso gyadva pudatim avyayam. So the great soul, those great souls who are undeluded, those great souls who are undeluded, like Srinivata Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravani Kirtana, Punya Shravana, those, those truthful devotee, pure devotee, unalloyed devotee, undiluted devotee. They are under the protection of the Daivi Shakti, of the transcendental energy of the Lord, of the spiritual energy of the Lord. They are under the protection, under that protection. And what they do, they are fully engaged in devotional service, Haitukiya Pritiyata, with no interruption and with no condition. It's nothing to satisfy themselves. They don't care. Those devotees, they don't care. I am on earth in Kali Yoga, in a smelly place, like Srila Prabhupada so many times. He lives in smelly place. Even the people around him, I imagine like the hippies, they were smelling so bad, not taking a shower. There is a movement too, even now, of young people who think like the highest of self-realization is to not shower, because when you don't shower, then your scent is coming out. And if your real scent is coming out, then there is something very primal about that bring you back to your original constitutional position. That's philosophical speculation, but some people think like that. So the hippies, maybe some of them were thinking like that. But, for Srila Prabhupada's perspective, where like a sannyasi take a bath 3 times a day, and then in a varnashram dharma, bathing is really at the core of life, in a sense. That's what we do first when we get up in the morning. That's what we may do at noon before we take lunch. Like we can see all the sages before they receive in a Bhagavatam, before they are served their lunch, they go to the river. Like there is a story with Durvasa Muni, of course, it's a very famous story of Durvasa Muni and King Ambarish. That King Ambarish had fasted, and then Durvasa Muni arrived just almost at the time he was supposed to, Maharaj Ambarish was supposed to break his fast.
In this context, he fasted for a full year.
Yeah, he fasted for a full year. It was just the time he was supposed to break his fast. And Durvasa Muni came with an army of people. And then of course, Ambarish receives them, like it's being able to host guests is also very, very highly regarded in Vedic culture. And so he was ready to receive them. His son is cook, please cook abundance for all Durvasa Munis and all these followers. And Durvasa Muni said, okay, I'm going to go take a bath first, because that's a proper etiquette to take a bath before receiving prashadam. The rest of the story is that he took his time. He did all his oblation at the river, and so it took so much time that Maharaj Ambarish time to break his fast was passing, and so Maharaj Ambarish was, he knew that eating before his guests was really not proper etiquette, but not breaking his fast on time was not proper either. So he approached the Brahmins and said, okay, what to do? And the Brahmins said, oh, you can drink water, because drinking water is both considered breaking fast and not breaking fast. So you're covered on both sides. But then, as the story goes, like Durvasa Muni, he was really, really upset. He was just, he has some kind of a temper, Durvasa Muni. We see that in the Mahabharata too. He turned to have, he's a great Muni. He's a very powerful Muni and all that. I don't want to mess up with him. At the same time, he often, manifests anger. And anyway, so he manifests anger. And then we can see the power of a pure devotee, because when Durvasa Muni manifested his anger, the Lord Devi Shakti, that Durvasa Muni made he created a demon that will kill Ambarish Maharaj, and the demon right away disintegrated. Because Ambarish Maharaj, he pleased the Lord so much with all his service and devotion. With his devotion, of course, external service, devotion manifests in external service, but devotion, that's what's missing often in the Munis, devotion. And with his devotion, he pleased the Lord so much that he always had Sudarshan chakra with him. So the Sudarshan chakra, it just killed the demon, and after it turned to Durvasa Muni. So we can see that those great Mahatma to Partha. So they are great, and they are protected by the Daivi Shakti of the Lord. So the chance for us is that in this Kali Yoga, there has been a chain of disciplic succession of great Mahajans who were preaching to people who were more elevated than the people of Palestine. More elevated than the people of Palestine. Lord Chaitanya, Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, and going down with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, and going down to our last four, Jagannath Das, Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our Srila Prabhupada. So all of them, besides Prabhupada, when he came to the West, they were speaking to people who were more elevated than the people of Palestine, way more cultured, were cleaner, compassionate, vegetarian, knowing the Veda, knowing the difference between the body and the soul, all that. And that's who they were, encountering. And at the same time that they were encountering and preaching to those people, those great Mahajans, those great pure devotees, they were so compassionate that they had a vision. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a vision of the whole world becoming devotees. He had a vision of Westerners coming to Mayapur, and together the Russian and American and the European chanting Hare Krishna together. That's completely unheard of, never seen ever before. The Mahajan, and Prithiviti, anyway. Yeah, so Lord Chaitanya, he was in every village, every town and village. Every town and village means in the world, everywhere. Nagaragi, all the village, everywhere. And so they really absorb, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was absorbed in Lord Chaitanya's mission, Lord's desire, and Lord Chaitanya's instruction, order, become a guru, everybody becomes a guru, and he understood it's not limited to India, it's not limited to Brahmins, it's not limited to Aryan, that Aryan can manifest anywhere in the world. And that's how, from my understanding, we get, even so we are lower than the lower of the lowest. We are the lowest, like when it comes to the total pole of the low, we are lower, because even the lowest of the lowest in India, in a Varnashram system, in a system like the untouchable, they are dog eater. They are dog eater. We are cow eater. It's unheard. It doesn't exist. So it's the lowest of the lowest of the lowest. Somehow, by the grace of the Mahajan, by the desire of the devotee, by the vision of the devotee, they sent the commander-in-chief of the army of Lord Chaitanya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the west to give us what nobody else ever gave, pure love of God through the chanting of the Mahamantra. So what a boon for us, and we are so unqualified. So where else wanted to go? I could go so many places. I was thinking to read a purport from the Bhagavad Gita, because that purport explains more in detail the psychology of people who don't surrender to Krishna. People who kind of are so absorbed in the false ego transforming into mind in contact with the goodness, or the false ego transforming into the senses and sense object in contact with the mode of passion, that they don't surrender to Krishna. There is also a thing I want to share, but I'm going to go there because that's what came up. So it's chapter 4 and text 10, and we are going to read the purport, because it's a fine purport that we should listen to very regularly, I believe. So it said, being free from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. And where do we get that knowledge of me? From people who have the knowledge of Krishna. And that's the all attain transcendental love for me. Same thing, we get those who attain love for me, for Krishna, they can give it to us. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the supreme absolute truth. So when we are too materially affected, it's very difficult to understand the personal aspect. The impersonal aspect, many can go to that, to science, to philosophical speculation. But the personal aspect of God is going to be given to us by someone who has a relationship. Yeah? It's natural. Like we have a personal relationship with so many people, Elon Musk, or the President of the United States, President of France, the President of a big corporation, and we have impersonal relationship. We don't have a personal, we have their energy. We have their time, their energy. But really to enter a personal relationship with any of them, we need someone who knows them. We need someone who is intimately connected with them. We need someone who have like entrance into a personal relationship with them. So that's even more true of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is also a person, that we are not going to have any entrance in his personal aspect without knowing someone who have entrance to who have like intimate relationship with body with God, with body with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enjoy and is enjoyed by the Personality of Godhead. So no, as long as we are too affected, that's not going to happen. We are not going to meet that great devotee, that Mahajan. Generally, people are too attached to the bodily conception of life. Generally, people who are too attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. So those who cannot even understand the difference between spirit and matter, when we are too materially engrossed, it's very, very difficult to understand that there is another path to us. And right now, I'm in contact with my mom quite a lot, and she's declining a lot. Her brain doesn't work anymore, and she's forgetting things, and she have moment of incoherence. Like the other day I was speaking with her, and it was 9:30 in France, and she said, okay, I need to do my grocery shopping now. And in France, stores are closed at 9:30. Not in America, but in France, nobody shop at that time. And I wish, I try, but I'm not feeling very successful. That by now she will know that she's not this body, she's not this brain. It's okay if my brain is blank. It's okay if I don't remember anything. It's okay if my leg don't work very well, because I'm not all that. And it will be so helpful at the stage of life. But because most of her life she haven't been willing or open to hear that, because she have been materially engrossed a lot, then now that the body is declining super fast, there is nothing to hold on to, and no existence beside the senses and the mind and the body. So so absorbed materialism creates that we don't even know that there is imperishable part of us. This is painful. In a materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. That's for sure. Therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. So when people hear about the Lord, they keep that conception of ignorance and misery. For such a materialist man, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the supreme to be impersonal. So the people who are materialistic, even when they hear about God, even their conception of God, and I will say many Christians, their conception of God is very vague. And it's like this force. And it's true, it is a force. But it sounds very impersonal, like no personal relationship or personal existence of the Lord separated from me. There is a Lord, this kind of person that can give me my bread, but is he a person beside giving me my bread? Does he have liking or dislike? Does he have preferences? Does he have activities? That's all missing. So it's still kind of, my relationship with, the big, giant owner of the corporation is like, he gives me my bread, but do I know what he does on Saturday and Sunday? I don't. Do I know how he likes to play? Do I know how he likes to joke? No, I don't. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. So that's different level, like no knowledge of the soul, a little bit of knowledge of the soul and the absolute, then impersonalist, and then okay, like I accept there is a supreme that I can live eternally, and I cannot live eternally. Like it's a gradation in that purport. I come to a place like accepting I can be liberated from the material entanglement and the ignorance and the misery. But then if I'm liberated, there is no relationship and there is no personality, there is no individuality. Because all I know is individuality and personality is such a cause of pain and disturbance. When they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming person again. So they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. So that's, again, two things, like enjoying my pleasure, me, and then when I'm done with that, because I suffer so much, then I want liberation. And when I want liberation, I imagine my liberation to be merging into oneness, because I don't want to exist anymore. And I can get it, I get it. Because, yeah, I'm so tired of material life. I want to disappear. I don't want to exist anymore. But the problem with that is that it's not possible. And then it goes to avoidism too. Like, I don't want to exist. I don't want to exist. But that's not how a pure devotee feels. A pure devotee in a material existence or within the material realm, of course, is not from the material world, but is in. Is coming, and it doesn't have those kind of thoughts that I'm tired, I don't want to exist anymore, I'm done with this world. It doesn't have any thought like that. This is our materialistic mind who does that. I'm speaking to myself here. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubble of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. That is the highest perfection of spiritual existence attainable within individual personality, without individual personality. So that's the highest we can go, like a bubble in the ocean. This is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all, being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradiction of various types of philosophical speculation. They become disgusted and angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. So we can see like the nuance. It's like, first we speculate, but then when the speculation still doesn't give me the truth I'm looking for, I'm still not satisfied, then I go to like voidism, like, okay, nothing. I disappear, I don't exist, nothing exists. Because of the frustration that whatever I speculated is not leading me anywhere. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause, so those three. And some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. This last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and their affective hallucination are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. One has to get rid of the three stages of attachment to the material world. So I was meditating on that, the three stages of attachment to the material world. Negligence of spiritual life, fear of spiritual identity, and the conception of void that underlies the frustration of life. So that's it. So we I'm going to stop here, I believe. The other thing I have on my notes, they are going in different direction. So that's the last nail of Maya, to want to become God, to think that we are God. That's the last nail of Maya. I'm going to read the verse again. The Sanskrit is very simple because it's only 2 lines. tajasanendriyanyeva yana karma mayanicha. The senses are certainly products of the mode of passion and false ego, and therefore philosophical speculative knowledge and fruitive activities are predominantly products of the mode of passion. I think philosophical speculators, they will be very offended by hearing that. That whatever they are doing, it's not like, how it's called, Prakriti Kriyamanani, Guna Karmani Sarvasya, Hahunkara, Virmudatma, Kartaham, Itimanyate. Isn't it? Is that like we are foolish. We think we are the doer of action when it's just our false identification that prevent us to see that in fact guna karmani sarvasya. Guna karmani sarvasya. Guna means the three modes of material nature. Karmani, karma, action, work, and sarvasya, all. All the action are done by the three modes of material nature. So, Hare Krishna. Any comment, question, challenges?
Got something online.
Hmm?
Someone's commenting online.
No comments online.
Yeah, thanks for your class, Malini. Hare Krishna. Okay, yeah. So the point, yeah, that you put it out for contemplation, discussion, because like, yeah, okay, there in the desert 2,000-3,000 years ago, they had more like virtuous character than today. So how come it's today that we're getting this most complete knowledge, whereas, as Jesus said, I have a lot more, but you're not able to bear it. So we'll be able to bear it. Our population is less than them for the most part, and so that's true in many ways. I'm just contemplating that. Even like I remember in my days in the yeshiva with Rabbi Ackerman and Weinberg, and there was a discussion. So there was like, there's something in the Old Testament, which is where we would focus in yeshiva, not the New Testament. And like, yeah, someone did some apparently slight disrespect towards their mother or father, and there was this like super heavy punishment. Okay, and so this is 1983, 84, actually December, January 83, 84, it's an issue. So it's already 40 years ago. And I remember there was someone there, like me, kind of like a relatively short-term visitor, saying, well, this doesn't make sense. Like someone just maybe said some disrespectful word and just some super heavy punishment. And then the rabbis, they were saying, yeah, well that, for someone to even slightly disrespect it, it's not like today's culture in the 1980s, where it's kind of like, just this reckless disrespect for mother and father. But then, like, even if the mother or father did something severe, there was just this honor thy mother and father. So the idea is there was a lot more culture then, okay, and then so we couldn't conceive. All right, so then how come we're getting like, the Bhagavatam and Lord Chaitanya's Chinchya Beta Beta Tattva, the different nuances of the rasas, and they didn't really get that in the Old Testament or the New Testament. So just a few thoughts. So one, of course, as you said, it's Prabhupada. So there's the mercy of the Shaktivesh avatar. So that's clear. Kind of, it's not a linear thing. Krishna and the Srila Prabhupada, they can just give it anywhere and anywhere. So there's that. That way it's like, it's not about calculating who's more pure. But then also this whole idea of more or less qualified or pure, there's different subtleties and angles of vision. It's not a unidimensional thing. So I'm also thinking in that regard. So of course there's the mercy, but then if we look at it, so just like, okay, all right. So you mentioned like hippies, okay, like really degraded and like that. So if we look at like the current day, so there could be all right. So maybe expand hippie new age, like that. And then let's say the kind of the fundamental conservative, like that, whether a Christian or Muslim. So you say it depends how we look through the gemstone, how we look through the diamond and what's the angle. So like who's more qualified to receive? So like one group might be like real spirituality is for the mother to kill the baby in the womb. Okay, something like that. It's like it doesn't get more Rakshasa than that. I mean,
No, it will.
yeah, well, okay, but we're just looking now. Yeah, but like that's quite Rakshasa. Whereas like the other group, it's just like, no, the life in the womb is sacred, and they have like regular principles around sexuality and responsibility. All right, so then this group is more qualified, like that. But then the group who's sub Rakshasa, okay, but then they might have like, well, let's not be violent to the animals, and like that. So it's kind of like, so similarly, I was thinking of the metaphor like, all right, you might have a prison, and then there's relatively minimum security, maybe white collar crime. Okay, maybe they have more access to a library, this and that. And then, so there's the principle of the inconceivable mercy of the Shaktivesha Avatar Srila Prabhupada. Okay, then there's the principle, which we know is true, of Krishna is reciprocating with the desires of the living entities. And so it's no accident that right now it's Kali Yuga, this sort of prison. The collective consciousness of the living entities, and Krishna is reciprocating with that. Okay, at the same time, let's say again, you got like a particularly dark part of the prison for particularly violent, vulgar criminals. Right, so the government and the prison warden, they reciprocate with that. So it's just like, no, you need to stay in your cell, and you don't get time in the exercise yard, this and that. But let's say even in the very dark part of the prison, maybe it's like, okay, maybe there's a particular movement of consciousnness, and you can, generally you got the 2,000 prisoners there, but maybe there's 100 or 200 as degraded as they are, as vulgar as they are. They have a particular enthusiasm for poetry. Okay, so the warden and the guards and the government, so they create some special library in the deep darkness and you get 2 hours a week to study poetry. So I'm just thinking of this intermixture of the principles.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate. Well, it's still like the mercy and what we receive also. It's not linear because like Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago, and 800 years ago Lord Buddha came and took people away. So Lord Chaitanya could have come in a sense at that time too. And then what Lord Buddha gave was not the highest either. He diverted people from using the Veda in a wrong way, but those people were also, in a sense, on one level of the side of the diamond, more qualified than the Kali Yuga, degraded people. And same thing with Acharya too, like the worship of Radha Krishna, which is the highest, it's came in Kali Yoga and not other yoga. And other yoga people elevate themselves, but not necessarily to the highest. So it's, I think because we have a material mind and we are conditioned by the treatment of material nature, the tendency is to want to have cause and effect and to put things in a clean way. But it seems that from God's perspective, maybe those souls who finally end up in Kali Yoga in modern age with a lot of comfort, they are more qualified to receive, and not because of their conditioning, let's say, but their journey, like Brahmiti, Brahmanda Brahmiti, Kona Jiva, Bhagavan Jiva. So like after circulating in millions of lifetime in different species of life, in upper planetary system, in all the ages, somehow like those souls come here, and there is something that Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, the Acharyas see in the soul that we don't see, because we don't see the soul, we just see the body and the conditioning. But who knows, maybe those souls who are born in this Kali Yoga, in this modern age, they have a history and a bank account, spiritual bank account that's very specific to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, that has nothing to do with the degradation of the conditioning. Like I'm just conjecturing based on, like why in Satya Yoga the process is different and the destination is different, and people were way more qualified than conditioned soul in Kali Yoga. So I'm just conjecturing. Pampa, Prabhu, you have your hand raised.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me okay?
I heard you when you say Hare Krishna, and now it's kind of fading away and very metallic. Maybe I can put myself on mute and see.
Just come on. I just wanted to add to the conversation, and I think it's related. It's something that's interesting to me, at least. And I was reading or seeing this description of like what was the biggest religion in the world for different time periods, and it was like the year 1000 or the year 500, the year 1500, like that kind of chart. And then I started to look more, and like really there's no definitive answer. There's not. It's like a lot of conjecture and a lot of there's no clear cut, at least widely accepted answer to that. But it seems pretty reasonable, at least even the people that I saw, to say that what we call Hinduism was at one time the biggest religion in the world, and then if you combine Hinduism with Buddhism, which is also coming out of India, then it's like pretty clear cut to me, at least, that like for a large portion, from probably the year 1000 to 1500, in that kind of time frame, that that represented like the largest religion in the world, the dominated spiritual thought in the world, for sure. And then and really Christianity became the most dominant religion around 1900, so it's like relatively recent. And then you can see, I think, if I look at the history, it's kind of been like I would say, I don't have the exact numbers, but I have seen some things that it seems that Prabhupada was coming around the apex of Christianity, and now Christianity's declining, especially in the European countries, and worldwide, and Islam is the fastest growing religion at this time. And so I just find that all there's some connection, or I think about that. And so like so Jesus was preaching to mostly Jews, or or Jew centric people, or people very close to the Jewish people. And then perhaps the other, and so he was like a reformist, so he was like reforming in a sense within the Jewish tradition, but also perhaps he was bringing in some more completeness, uh perhaps from the Vedic tradition. I would, we'll see about that, but he was bringing in some more completeness to the Jewish tradition there. So perhaps it just wasn't that that was the service at that time, was to bring some completeness to the Judeo philosophy that could then be spread throughout the world. And then we see that it is spread throughout the world. And then that Prabhupada had such a particular mission, and used Christian language and themes, and it seems that Prabhupada's mission was so much tied up into Christian nations, and then so it seems that perhaps it could be that the ground was laid, the spread of Christianity throughout the world was a preparation for Prabhupada's preaching, because Prabhupada's preaching was very suitable and geared towards the Christian countries, or Christian countries that were mostly Christian. And then and yeah, so and then I wonder, uh myself, I look and wonder uh, um more about that, because I know sometimes we kind of equate things like okay, Christian or Muslim, uh but it seems to me that Prabhupada um is more geared towards Christianity, the language and his preaching and everything. I know Dear Govinda has experienced preaching in Muslim countries and things like that, but it seems to me that it's, at least in historically Christian nations, then the environment is more suitable to preaching the Prabhupada's movement, and compared to, like, Muslim dominated countries. So interesting to see the future of, like, of yeah, how that will play out. But yeah, that was something that's interesting to me that I wanted to share, and perhaps it's related in the sense of, like, the spread of Christianity prepared the ground, because a lot of the a lot of the religious thoughts or beliefs were around the world, like the pagan and everything. Like perhaps they were like remnants of Vedic, you know, devolved, uh, spiritual and religious thought, but they were, so degraded. And then so perhaps like the Christianity, like with the simple nature of like one God, and having love and faith for one God, perhaps that was necessary, like a necessary next step for, like, around the world to, like, accept that as the widely prevailing spiritual religious thought, and that sets the ground for then to come with a more complete understanding of, like, okay, one God, and yes, many forms. So those are some of my thoughts. But you're muted, Mother Mom.
I said thank you, Parampara Prabhu. Very stimulating thoughts, enlivening about the possibility, like in the same way that we have Sankaracharya, and then we have Lord Buddha, Sankaracharya, Lord Chaitanya, all coming with certain mission to really bring people more and more towards Vaishnavism in India. So worldwide, for the population that were degraded, like devolving Hindus into paganism. I like that, because definitely there is so much connection between demigod worship and what was going on in the name of paganism, and then also in the name, like in Rome, in Rome, the way they were worshipping, and in Greece, that like, of course, it will be interesting, like the Old Testament, there is the Jewish people, but even the Jewish people, they had one God, and at the same time, it became really lost. They became so lost in speculation and rule and regulation and gyani kind of things that Christ came in that population because they already had one God, they were not polytheists, and to rectify that, starting with that population, and then you're seeing like, okay, like Christianity came as a, like to change the paganism and to change to one God in a very simple way. Yeah, it's very like the Christian theology. There is something very childlike and childish about it, that Adam and Eve and apple and the snake and and follow one God and follow me, Christ, follow me, and just believe in me and believe, and everything will be okay for you, which is the Mahajan principle. And that you see, like, okay, in the same way that Buddha set the scene for Sankaracharya, who set the scene for Lord Chaitanya, Lord Jesus Christ set the scene for Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada was kind of the whole orchestration from Krishna, Lord Hari, to re-spiritualize the world, one layer at a time, in a sense, layer of Christianity and layer of Vaishnavism. That's an interesting conjuncture. It's an interesting conjuncture. The last time I looked at the most spread religion, the statistic I read was Muslim religion, and it's interesting because when speaking to Christian here, or people somewhat Christian, or anyone, most people in America think the most widely spread religion is Christianity, and because they haven't traveled much. They think Christianity is everywhere, but it's not. I live in Japan, and there was no Christianity in Japan practically. There was no Christianity in Thailand either, and in India, very little Christianity. And that movement within our Sampradaya, we say, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's first writings were directed towards Hindus that were frustrated with Hinduism, because the Hinduism became so ritualistic and empty that they were very impressed by the Christian priest at that time. And it was like Hindus that were a little wealthy and not Brahmins, but like more Kayasta type clerk, or like people who were like government officer post, and they were more inclined toward Christianity. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur started to write for them, to kind of really give the Vaishnava perspective on Hinduism and combine it with Christianity to kind of appeal to those people, and also to revive Lord Chaitanya's movement. So it really, what you're sharing, my sense is that it started with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then Srila Prabhupada, like following Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, he kind of knew how to address the Christian population. Yeah. Thank you, Parampara Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Anandini Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class and the sharings. And I have many thoughts. And I really like the first sentence of Srila Prabhupada's purport really struck me. Like the chief function of false ego is godlessness. And I thought, wow, like I so often feel frustrated with false ego, and I think I should change it, or I should be different. And it just struck me, this sentence, that yeah, like what's the point of being upset with false ego and the godlessness in me? Because that's the function of the false ego. There's no point in changing it. It's about like detaching from it and not identifying with it, with the false ego. So I really like that.
There's no point fighting the false ego because we are fighting a false identification. What we need is to create the real identification.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, what you just spoke about and what Parampara shared, what came to my mind is that Lord Chaitanya like preached to the Muslims a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They were like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. You know, I don't know if they were real Muslims, but they were like converting to the religion. And so yeah, that came to my mind. And then also related to that is a question, and maybe you have a response to that. I think many years ago I read how one king, a Vedic king, sent out his, I don't know if it was his sons or other kings, to spread over the planet. Maybe I just made this up, I don't know. But that there's many like yeah, that the Vedic culture was taken to different parts in the world. And Parampara was mentioning pagans. Yeah, and I recently got a book from a colleague at work, and she from a lady. She's called Anastasia, and she calls herself a Vedic Russian. And I was interested to read it because many, like here in Switzerland, it's very popular. She's considered a saint. I don't think she's a saint, but she's considered like a completely pure saintly person. And when she said, "Oh, she calls herself a Vedic Russian," I got interested to read her book. And yeah, I was just thinking, like, there's so much of what she shares is in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So where does it come from? So do you have any more information about this?
You know, like from what I understand, Bharat was one, so the earth was one, so the Vedic culture was everywhere. And for example, in Treta Yoga, when Lord Ramachandra came back to Ayodhya, he sent Lakshman to one direction on earth, and in Satrugna in another direction, and in Bharat in another direction, to to go all around the world to make sure that the Vedic culture is followed and that everybody is under Ramraj, under Ramachandra's, and anyone who were not surrendered to Lord Ram where was convinced to battling, to being vanquished in battle. And it's true during the reign of Yudhishthira Maharaj also. He was emperor of the world, and then the Rajasuya sacrifice mean they were sending a horse, and then the kings that didn't want to surrender, and again they needed to surrender to the emperor. And then there is also a pastime like the pastime of Parashuram, and where he was killing all the king 21 times. So 21 generation in Treta Yuga, it's many years, because everyone lives so long. So 21 generation. And when he was killing all the kings, it says that they were dispersed in so many places and they were hiding in a forest. So there was maybe the cities were like under the rule of the emperor and the king that was surrendered to the emperor, but then the countries, they maybe have people hiding. And then how the Vedic culture was devolving, like Parampara said, probably, yeah, it seems from paganism, from the Greek and the Roman, the ways they were worshipping, and most people, uncultured people, they were they were influenced by the Indian culture, because the Indian culture was the only culture really that existed. Yeah. So that's
Yeah, there's abundant and growing evidence of that. Even if we look at the names, Krishna, there's abundant growing evidence of that. If you look into like Syria, Soria, Iran, the Aryan, like in Bhagavad Gita, Aryan, Russia, Rishi, Siam, Sham, and there's abundant evidence in so many fields, archaeology, linguistics, that around the world it's kind of somewhat devolved culture based on the original Vedic culture that's described in Mahabharata. Srila Prabhupada says the Europeans, Americans, for the most part, they're fallen Kshatriya races like that. Kiratu Nandra Pulinda Pukasha, that's a verse from the second canto of Bhagavatam that describes different races that were from the original Vedic race, and Kiratu Nandra Pulinda Pukasha, and this is from 5,000 years ago. So yeah, there's in mathematics we can see that if we look at anthropology, archaeology, cultural studies in South America. Prabhupada talks about like the gold deposits in Brazil or from Sri Lanka from the time of Ravana, and yeah, I mean I don't have all the details memorized, but in South America, Central America, there's temples of Hanuman from thousands of years ago. Temples of Hanuman. So it's clear they were like fallen, and yeah, it's abundantly clear. We can go into how when the spread of the British and they're trying to give trying to do the colonization, Christianity. There's a big movement for hundreds of years to try to mislead people and show how the flow went from west to east, but actually went from east to west in whatever area you want to look like. I wrote a paper about that called Jethro, the Druze in Vedic culture. How actually the source of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is the Vedas through a group called the Druze. I wrote some paper about that. I talked about it over the years in some of these classes. I have a book about it. Right. I mean, I could go on and on. There's a lot about that. Practically each year, there's more and more scholarly literature indicating the original Vedic culture. Hare Krishna.
yeah. And you know about the Hindu, whatever, Russian Hindu or whatever, you know, every year there is new goals, new people, new pure devotee, new people that people even call God, new people who use the Vedas and the Shastras of the Veda to convince people that they are special, because the Vedas are so powerful, and if someone practices any part of it, for the Westerners who don't know anything, who don't know any better, who never like practice anything deeply, then it's very impressive. You know, in a sense, any follower of Srila Prabhupada, if they want to, they can, they have the Shakti, the power to, if they wanted to
show that we're avatars.
To show, avatar, or to show I'm a pure devotee, or to show like I have mystic power. Because for most people, even the devotees, the rank and file devotee follower of Srila Prabhupada, they are so different. And if they create authority, it's a question of not, like create authorities that people look at me that way. And we see that there's that phenomena is even alive in Srila Prabhupada's movement, like, creating that, like the person doesn't act in a human way or in a friendly way, then it takes two people to glorify you, then that creates four, that creates eight, that creates so many people, and after a while you're an avatar. And if you know anything, you have any training in the Vedic science, for most population of the Western world, you're a saint, you're a sage, you're a Muni, you're on an equal level with great Munis in the Himalayas, because people are so ignorant and so foolish. So
That
that's
could be a career. That could be a,
what you say?
that could be a new career.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Anybody else something to share? Grand Torah Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari 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 Bol.